So we talked about it before. He won the back-to-back championships with Georgia. Of course, they got elite talent everywhere. More on defense than offense, but at the same time, it's not like they were running a Lamar Jackson type of offense. So, do they expect him to come in and make him
Well, I
a
think the
proficient passer with him? I
yeah.
just
So I think
was
that is
Lamar
the
Jackson a part of that hire? I don't know, man. It just
I,
seems weird.
I do think that is the expectation because I mean everything they're saying, even though the actions may not seem, I mean, line up to what they're saying, is that they want to keep Lamar. And what Lamar needs is Lamar needs more weapons. You know, he doesn't want to run the ball for the rest of his career, even though that's an added
Right.
weapon to his game, obviously. Just,
Yeah.
separates him. That's what makes him special. But it's not something that he wants to do. He understands that and obviously I'm talking like I've spoken with Lamar, but this is just kind of common sense that Lamar
Y'all
understands.
are boys?
Yeah, I mean, he's my boy. I have him on two of my dynasty leagues. Actually, I had him on another one. But I mean, what I'm getting at is just like he understands that he's had some injuries the last 2 years, and he sees what these other guys are doing, like a Jalen Hurts, like Josh Allen, and even Justin Herbert. When they have these weapons, the heights that they can reach, and Lamar, I'm not going to say is a better passer than all of these guys because I don't think he's a
Right.
passer than Justin Herbert or Josh Allen, but I do think he's at least right there with Jalen Hurts.
Oh,
Maybe
easily.
like I think he's maybe even better. You just give him the weapons that Jalen Hurts has. I mean, man, it's you're looking at a scary, scary offense. So
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going
If he can develop him as a passer, then I think it's
to.
great. But I
Well,
just don't imagine that that's
that's the thing. I
gonna do
don't
that.
even know if they're going to be able to keep him. Like I think we talked about this on last week's episode. It's like I mean, not last week, the week before, is that supposedly they're about 100 mil apart, so like,
Yeah.
which is kind of crazy. And I don't know. I think they need to give Lamar his money. Obviously, that's just not even up for debate. He's their entire offense. And if they don't,
Yeah.
I think we're
Literally.
like literally like, and I think if they don't, they are one of the dumbest organizations right now. And that's
Yeah.
hard to say about the Ravens, who are obviously a very successful organization throughout the franchise's history. But
But
like,
how do you fail to put pieces around Lamar? I mean, granted, Mark Andrews is phenomenal, and I like Isaiah Likely, but why would you have gotten rid of Marquise Brown? Like, I get you don't want to pay him, but you don't have anyone else.
yeah, and
Anyone
that was
else.
his boy too. That like Lamar loved Marquise.
Yeah.
So
Look,
it's
they Kyler had uh, didn't really have many weapons out in Arizona, but they went and traded for D Hop. They went and traded for Marquise Brown. They went and drafted Rondale Moore, who I like. I think he's underrated. Fantasy wise, I don't see him being elite necessarily, but he's gonna be their slot underneath guy. Marquise Brown spends a lot of time out, and I don't want to get into full deep dive, but my point is, even as much as I wasn't a big fan of Cliff Kingsbury, he had an offensive mindset to him and was ready to throw pieces at him. He's like, "Look, dude, we got an
right,
elite quarterback who's not getting paid right now. Go get D Hop, go get Marquise Brown, and see if we can win this shit right now."
right.
When have the Ravens done that, man? It just they traded for Patrick Queen last year, and I get Lamar Jackson was injured, and or not Patrick Queen,
Roquan Smith.
Roquan Smith, but at the same time, like that's not nobody thinks that that was the problem. You know what I mean? Like, did he make them their defense way better? Of course. But how are you going to win the Super Bowl
Right.
with Lamar Jackson and weapons, bro? It didn't make any
It
sense
doesn't
to me.
make any sense. And this can be the last thing that we kind of say about that whole little situation, because honestly, we didn't even talk that much about Todd Monken, just kind of, crapped on the Ravens organization, which I mean,
Yeah,
they honestly deserve it with the way that they handled this situation.
right.
But last thing that I do want to say, and then we'll go ahead and get in a quick break, is that with that, the only wide receivers that they brought in outside of like obviously I think didn't no well they drafted Hollywood and they drafted Rashad Bateman.
Rashad Bateman.
They
Yeah.
drafted Devin Duvernay, who looks okay, and there's one other kid that I'm just completely blanking on. But free agent wise, these are the only guys that they brought in, and it's kind of hilarious, honestly, when you consider who their quarterback is. They brought in Sammy Watkins, and this was on that Sharp Analytics suite, by the way, that I saw. I'm sure you guys can go find the thread on Twitter or whatever. But it was Sammy Watkins, Chris Moore, Deshaun Jackson, Des Bryant, and there's one other I'm forgetting.
Willie Snead.
Willie Snead, thank you. Not one of those players are even remotely in their prime. Literally, right. They signed a washed Deshaun Jackson, a Des Bryant who was definitely done with his career. You know, like Sammy Watkins is the best, like probably signing of that entire group. Like
probably. And the Packers, who needed wide receiver help, cut him last year, and the Ravens picked him up. Like
that's just, man, like that is just, if that's not taking care of a quarterback, I don't know what it is.
Huge indictment. Huge indictment on them.
And you can, I guess, say, and this will be the very last thing, that the Ravens obviously have one of the best running games in the NFL. But I mean, man, for a quarterback,
take Lamar Jackson out.
Yeah, take Lamar out, you have nothing. Like because their running backs have obviously been so injured, and then even the guys that they brought in, it's not like they've made trades or really got in some guys in the draft. Like JK, I really like. He was one of my number one running backs in that year where it had DeAndre, Jonathan Taylor as well. But it just hasn't been healthy, you know. And then like you're not bringing in other weapons to really help. You traded away his guy, and then you brought in Tyler Linderbaum, which is phenomenal offensive lineman.
Beast.
Yeah, beast. But like, I mean, man, you got I mean, we've talked about this so many times, is that what helped Josh Allen is obviously he did improve a lot with his accuracy, but you cannot deny the fact that Stephon Diggs was one of the biggest things for Josh Allen's career. Like once 100%. He got Stephon Diggs, he took a ginormous leap. And that's what a lot of people are expecting with Trevor Lawrence this year too, because you're obviously, you got Christian Kirk, you got all these other weapons around him. Now you're bringing in a guy like Calvin Ridley, who last time we saw him was elite. You know, so like
even with Julio on the field.
Exactly.
He spent a year off. We'll see him get, back into game shape. But I imagine I picture Trevor Lawrence more as a Tom Brady type, where he's probably gonna get with Calvin Ridley as soon as it's not an issue.
Better. Yeah, he makes guys better. I agree with that. And that's why, I mean, you recently made a trade.
He brought Evan Ingram back.
Yeah, I mean, he did. Yeah. And, speaking of which, before we get into our break, you just made a trade for Trevor, you said,
yes, sir.